Hello everyone! In this video tutorial, me, Rocío Ramírez, and my classmate Germán will be analyzing two different text types by explaining and exemplifying key concepts. Let's start!
Hello, my name is Germán. As Rocío said, we're going to show you in this video a presentation of two texts. In this case, we will use them to identify the genre and function of each, and explain and exemplify the scaffolding, the most relevant grammatical features, some recurrence rules, the most frequent progression patterns, and the most frequent relations and connections. So, without further ado, let's begin.
Is titled A Hug is Enough. We identified the genre of this text as a narrative text, and the reason is because its function is to tell a story. Now it will be explained the narrative scaffold of this text. To begin with, you need to know that the narrative scaffolding it has five classifications. Number 1, orientation. It refers to the people who are in the story, when it's happening, where it's happening, and what's going on. The characters are Leah, who is the main character, her grandmother, her Aunt Lizzie, her grandfather, his auntie Jenny, and her best friend Sarah. When it's happening, this situation is happening before Mother's Day. Where it's happening, we can infer that this situation is happening in some house of any family member. And what's going on? Leah feels worried because she desires with all her heart to give her mother the most special Mother's Day gift. But she feels that any gift is enough to express how much she loves her. The second one is complication. You can see it with the color red. The complication is defined as something that will begin a chain of events. These events will affect one or more of the characters. In this story, the complication starts when Leah asks, what can she give to her mother? What can it be really special? The reason because the complication is this part of the story is because after this question, different family members began suggesting gifts for Leah to give her mother. Then we have the sequence of events. It refers to how the characters react to the complication. You can see it marked with the color green. After Leah asked her family what would be the most special gift she could give her mother, her family was happy and reacted positively as they started suggesting gifts of all kinds. Then we have the resolution, which is marked in color blue. We will make some paper posters and you can paint a picture or write a word. That is the solution of this problem. And then the coda is the message of the text, which is that for a mother, the most special gift, it will be always a hug. Grammatical features. First, the descriptive adjective is biggest, brightest, because it's describing how is the smile of Leah's mother. Then, the specific characters are represented in color yellow. They are Leah, Grandma, Aunt Lizzie, Sarah, Grandpa, Jenny, and Leah's mother. And finally, the dynamic verbs in color green are puzzles, tells, wonders, and frown, because they are a verb that indicate an action. Recurrent rules. In color purple, we have the anaphoric reference, because the unit her represents a previous unit, in this case, she. So, for avoid repetition, we use a different word. See a lexical substitution. Because the cake is a hypernoun of muffins. Color yellow, you can see the compound word special thing, which refers to an element previously mentioned, in this case, all the gift that the family recommended to Leah. The progression patterns is the constant thematic progression, because the theme is always the same. In this case, what is going to be the gift for her mother?
In this text, the most frequent relations are noun plus preposition. In this case, you can see them in yellow. We have a noun, vouchers, with a preposition right after it, with. And in the second example, pictures in. We can also find verbs plus the prepositional object. In this case, we have the verb remember and the prepositional object for your last birthday, marked in green. Now, let's talk about the connections. The connections are what in this case explicitly or implicitly relate sentences or links. For example, in this text, you can see that they are connected by punctuation. In this case, it would be implicit connections. You can see commas and periods connecting different ideas and linking different phrases. However, in this case, we have an explicit connector. That's when the connectors explicitly connect the relation between sentences or sequences. They can be conjunctions, adverbs, or expressions. And in this case, you can see conjunction and uniting different phrases or ideas. The second text we are going to analyze is How to Build a PC by J.K. Thomas, updated on June 13 of 2022. This text, in this case, is an instructive text, which tells us step by step on how to do or something, in this case, how to build a computer or a PC. The scaffolding of this text is really important. First, we have How to Build a PC, the title. What is that the text is going to teach us how to do? Then, there are some quick steps and the tools and requirements that we are going to need in order to proceed with the actions. And then finally, we have a step-by-step which will give us the careful instructions on how to achieve the goal that the text is trying to teach us. It's very important to follow this scaffolding so people are prepared before they start taking the instructions and they can achieve the goal. Some very specific grammatical features. The most prominent in this case are, in yellow, the sequences of action that tell us when the order that the actions will happen. In blue, the imperative verbs telling us the action that we must do. In orange, technical language according to the process that we are making. And in green, adverbs describing how to perform the action or in what way. Some of the recurrence rules that we will find in this text are, first of all, repetition. Repetition is when you use the same noun over and over and over again in order to maintain the same idea. In this case, the word fan or fans. Then we also have pronominalization. Pronominalization is when you take an idea or a noun and you exchange it with a pronoun. In this case, we use the pre-installed metaphor standoff, which is a mouthful, and we just changed it for them. Then, lastly, we have lexical substitution. Lexical substitution is when you take one element and you substitute it for another, may it be a synonym, a hypernym, or a hyponym. In this case, it's a synonym. The synonym CPU is changed into processor, which is technical language, but synonyms. And when it comes to the progression pattern, we can see we have a constant thematic progression. In this case, the theme is maintained even during different ideas or different sentences. For example, we can see a different example in orange in your PC case, and then it referring to the same PC case. Or on the second example, in yellow, we can see your motherboard's rear I/O shield, again, technical language, and the same idea, the same theme is repeated below. It's right side up. It's talking about the same motherboard's rear I/O shield.
The frequent relations is noun plus prepositions, coupled to, ports on, where, and ports with. And then we have the verb plus prepositional object. Check for pre-installed motherboard stand for, want to install, push into, and the rectangular slot. In the frequent connections, we have implicit connections, in this case are dot and commas, and explicit connections, in this case are and.